just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar, brought to you by Sportsbet. We're about to get into the Origin review, but before we get into the Origin team selection review, we've got an announcement. After Game 2, we are going live on YouTube from here. As soon as kickoff finishes and as it all kind of dies down, we will be going live from here to review the game on YouTube, and then obviously it'll all be released on audio and everything like that. Obviously, we did the live show before last week. We're doing it after this week, after the game. So that would be, what do you reckon, like 9:50, 10 o'clock-ish?
Just up to 10.
So as soon as the game finishes, put on the YouTube. We'll be here reviewing the game, a really deep dive, and it'll be special guest with Mitchell Pearce. That's right. It'll be myself, Timmy, Mitchell Pearce, and Matty. Guru's obviously got his own stuff that he does for Origin, and Hammy, you will be in Melbourne,
roving reporter.
But we will be calling Hammy. We'll be calling him from the stadium. Give us the feel from it all.
If the internet works, pray for the internet. I'll be there.
There we go.
Yep.
So that is straight after the game finishes. Game 2, we are doing a breakdown. Myself, Mitchell Pearce, Timmy, and Matty, and obviously calling in Hammy. And we'll be reviewing the game. So make sure to tune in. We're going to try to review Game 3. If we're not doing a live show going forward, if we're not doing a live show before in Origin, next year we're going to look to do review shows immediately after every single game, because the way I see it is we spend an hour texting each other after the fucking game anyway. So why don't we just get in here and do it? So that is Game 2, as soon as it finishes, live on YouTube, guys. Myself, Piercy, Timmy, Matty, and we call in Hammy in. Root, how you been, bros?
Would not have won 8 series in a row with a halves pairing of Pearce and Williams. I'll tell you that much.
You reckon?
Unbeatable.
Pearce and Williams combo?
I love that.
Yeah, I just hope that Mitchy's okay with being the second best playmaker on the show that night. So.
I'll only be phoning in, mate. It's all right.
Timmy, how's your weekend, mate?
It was good, mate. Good to have the full allotment of games back on. 8 games leading to Origin 2 weeks' time. So, mate, life's good.
New website?
New website, yeah.
And it's schmick. And when I say it's schmick, it is schmick.
Yeah, a lot of time and effort's gone into this one, so hopefully people enjoy it. But yeah, the website's had a facelift, so we've got the podcast on there, heaps of video content, Stat HQ, a dedicated Supercoach data centre, fair bit going on there, so yeah.
Even if you're not a Supercoach player, it's a real good place to go and like just look at the form of people. I know people like to make jokes about sports coach not being like a 100% measurement of where people are playing. It's a pretty bloody good measurement of how people are playing. Obviously, there's more to rugby league than stats, but even if you're not a Supercoach player, it is a good place to go.
You should see this data centre.
It's crazy.
It's unreal.
Everything you could know about rugby league, and also it'll give you a really good insight into some of the data that teams use as well when they're playing specific teams.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Heaps on there, and it's all different areas it gets broken down into, as you said, like Supercoach specific, a lot of it, but naturally it translates directly to NRL and rugby league teams, where they're strong, where they're weak. Probably the difference with Supercoach is it's very player specific, as we know.
Yep.
So it breaks down play performances, where they do good things, where they're weaker, where teams score and concede tries, that sort of stuff, particularly, again, with the Supercoach focus. So, yeah, a lot of blood, sweat and tears going into it, so...
Yep.
Check it out.
Hopefully not all mixed together.
No, never, mate.
Hammy?
Great weekend. I mean, honestly, we've dodged the spoon for this week, Spoon Bowl.
Yep.
Great day there at Leichhardt Oval. Morale was very high. Obviously, shout out to all the government faculties that came together and saved Leichhardt Oval last week. Morale was very high. I had a real pinch me moment as well. I got to meet the Hay Thurston bloke under the scoreboard at Leichhardt too. So can't really ask much more from around 15 there. Really enjoyed it.
And Roo, you're wearing some nice merch there. CBA Bowl, speak to us.
CBA Bowl, where could be anything dreams come true on Thursday night. Leichhardt Oval, 7:45 for the men's game, 5:45 for the women's game. Kemba, we've got a 2-for-1 ticket offer.
Ooh,
Link in the description. So if you want to come out, 2-for-1, Leichhardt Oval, Thursday night, food truck, brewskis. It's going to be all happening. I'll be on the hill. We're looking to fill the hill.
Okay, they're looking to fill the hill. Fill the hill, guys. Get around it. So that's the under-19s, women's and men's.
Women's and men's, yep.
Women's and men's. So you get 2 great footy games, and you get to see who the next big thing is. And seriously, though, usually in these games, there is at least 1 or 2 guys that go on to be like superstars.
Well, man of the match last year, 3 tries, Ethan Strange.
Yep.
Gone on to play a heap of first grade and do really well.
Really, really good place to, see you the next Super. And it is always cool when you see someone like rise to become a superstar and you're like, for example, I didn't go to his game. I remember doing reaction highlights to the Hammer years and years and years ago when he was like just a kid. And it's just crazy to see he's doing what you saw in those reaction highlights to like local kids that, aren't professional in the NRL. So get down, make sure to watch the game, guys. And as you said, it's the CBA Bowl. You want to be there for the inaugural CBA Bowl. And just for more clarity as well, the NRL has officially partnered with you for the CBA Bowl.
Yeah, they're all over the CBA Bowl. They love it. So brace yourself.
Who's number one CBA for the game, mate? Who's the watch?
New South Wales number 7, Mitch Woods.
Yeah.
I think that's
Doggies.
the big one.
So Mitch Woods is Doggies 7 that they just signed to a long-term deal, I think, at the start of this year. And it's, look, to my understanding, and you'll have probably a better insight than me, it's why when Mitchell Moses was on the market, the Dogs were, obviously we'll speak to Moses, but they said, you know what, let's not go out and spend $1 million on someone. We've got this young guy coming through, and let's invest in our juniors. I don't know, same whispers?
Yeah, exact same whispers, yeah. And mate, like what he's done in junior football has been off its head. He's gone, Harold Matthews Player of the Year, then the season after, which is, an extra age group above, he's also gone Player of the Year. Like to do that and to do it in general is unbelievable. To do it in back-to-back seasons, a year young, is just crazy. And, it's for him to, the way that he's just gone through the grades and been so dominant all the way through, won the Harold Matts grand final. And, in the Harold Matts grand final, I think they beat Penrith. Week 1 of the finals, they got beat by 50 by Penrith. They beat them 3 weeks later in the grand final. Lost the SG Ball grand final from memory this year, but to get player of the tournament in those 2 competitions, 2 years on the trot, is unbelievable.
And is he a year under 19s, or is he 19?
I think he's a year young, so I think he can play SG Ball next year again.
So he could make this side again next year.
I think so, yeah.
Wow, okay. Well, there you go. Stay patient, Bulldogs fans.
Is there a CBA Bowl halftime show?
I was working on it.
Yep.
So I'm going to keep my kid on though. So
Hey, I tell you what, the only way there's a CBA Bowl halftime show next year is if you get around it. Link in the show notes, 2-for-1 tickets. The more people that turn up, the more chance he gets his shirt off next year in the middle of the field. I'll pay for that. Big bucks.
It's just sold out. I've just gone to
Okay. Let's get straight into it, shall we? Before we get into it, guys, still some maroon hoodies left, and there are some blue T-shirts left and some maroon T-shirts left. The maroon shorts and the blue shorts, they're all gone. The blue hoodies, they're all gone. But there are still some on bloke.shop, maroon hoodies, really, really high quality material, guys. Trust me, the amount of people that have messaged me saying this is bloody good stuff has been, there's been a lot of them. So go to bloke.shop, grab a hoodie or a blue shirt or a maroon shirt, and let's get straight into it. We'll face the music after Origin. But we'll get into some Origin chat. Brought to you by Sportsbet, but also, did Madge and Slater make the McSmart choice? In celebration of the McSmart meal, which is 2 small burgers, a small drink, and a small fries for $6.95, we're going to talk about who made the McSmart choice. If you're going to make a choice, make it McSmart. Life can be a bit silly, but going to Macca's, it's always McSmart. All right, let's go through it. At number 1, Dylan Edwards. 2, Brian To'o. Stephen Crichton. 3, Latrell. 4, wing Zach Lomax. 6, Jerome Luai. Moses. 7. 8, Jake Trbojevic keeps the captaincy. 9, Reece Robson. 10, Payne Haas. 11, Liam Martin. 12, Angus Crichton. 13, Cam Murray to start. 14, Connor Watson. The hot pirate gets a call up. Isaiah Yeo at 15. 16, Olakawatu. 17, Spencer Lenu. 18, Mitch Barnett. 19, Cam McInnes. 20, Luke Keary. The biggest, not necessarily bombshell, but the biggest talking point has been to bring Latrell Mitchell in. Now, he's done so he was snapped with Michael Maguire at a 2014 10-year reunion at Rabbitohs. Current and past players all went to the reunion. And he'd also done an exclusive interview, I think it was NRL or it was Sydney Morning Herald, either one, and just discussed on some of the reasons why he wants to come back. And it was, to be honest, it's quite a very honest conversation. So, quote, "I'm ready, I'm keen. If Madge wants me, I'm in. I'm ready to go to Melbourne and give it to some Queenslanders. There was a lot of doubt with New South Wales because I've never been looked after. I've been the scapegoat. I want to go into camp and feel comfortable in my own skin, and create some bonds and get ready to play for people I want to play for." There's other quotes as well. I'll just get up. Actually, sorry guys, just get up real quick. Yeah, so it's a wide-ranging interview, guys. Let me play. Allow me to be who I am. Don't make up these yarns to betray me to your audience as a bad man. I just feel like people hate me, but they don't know me. See, that was an interview with the Sydney Morning Herald, and I think he's speaking to the media essentially by basically saying, like, you know, don't make yarns up to make a negative portrayal of him. But so look, I think with Latrell, he's a very unique situation where he just creates headlines. So it can either be a distraction or it can almost help galvanise a playing group. I thought it was interesting him saying he wants to almost be protected. And look, the last time he got dropped, I do feel like, although I don't think anyone threw him out to the Wolves per se, I did feel like they didn't probably get around him as much as I probably would have hoped if he was from my state. Like, for example, when KP got dropped or when Gay got dropped, I know it's very different circumstances, but I did feel that Billy was really good at getting around them publicly. So I kind of understand where Latrell's coming from. But thoughts on the whole situation, Roo?
It's going to be so interesting to watch him return. I was just having a look at his, record in State of Origin, and he's played 7 games. He's won 5 of them, but in games that are on the line, you take out the dead rubbers, he's 4 from 5, and he's scored, I think, 5 tries in those games. Like, he is just a big game player. I have my concerns about what game plan Billy Slater will have for him. I think it'll be a lot of repeat efforts and just trying to get him in the washing machine at marker, which I think will be interesting to see how he responds to that. But I think, a lot of people have said it this week. I think he's the guy that Queensland fear the most. I think that's sort of where the conversation stops.
Yeah,
I have my concerns, but we're down 1-0 in games that matter. He's got an incredible record. He always stands up in those games.
What are your thoughts on his comments?
I think it's a bit of a whack to Brad Fittler, but I don't think it's unfair. I think that it's pretty evident from what you heard during those periods that a lot of those guys were left out of sides or brushed from sides. Communication was poor. So without knowing the full story, I don't think Latrell's wrong at all.
Yeah, it's like a mixture of, like, I with the information that we have, similar to you, with the information that we have, and then there could be way more information that we don't know. I do feel like during that period, I felt like the New South Wales camp they may have privately, potentially protected the players or whatever, but I felt like media-wise, they didn't speak strongly enough to try to, what's the word? Not necessarily protect, but like almost just shelter them from very specific, I guess, media narratives that were pushed out there.
It felt like you were either in or you were out.
Yeah, out.
Yeah.
And I think, if I'm being honest, and this is just, look, I got no facts on this or stats or anything, but it does feel like during that period, it almost trickled down to the fan base as well, where, a player would have one bad game or it'd be dropped, and it'd be like, he's done with Origin. Like, he's gone forever. And I don't know, like, maybe that wasn't what it was like in camp, and as I said, maybe we've both got it totally wrong. But at that time when he did get dropped, everyone externally, he was the problem. He was the main guy that caused the loss. When you watch the game, it's the first game, 2019. He didn't play great, but there were plenty of other players that played great, didn't play that well. And I compare it to, remember Jackie White come on? I think he threw an intercept. But Freddie Fittler came out straight after the game, was like, I'm a big fan of Whiten, I want him in. And he was very positive about him and almost protected him from any negative press. And I felt there were a few players who got dropped that probably didn't get protected as well as possible. They could have.
And it obviously runs a lot deeper than Latrell as well. Like, I even thought last year the way that Stefano was treated, he wouldn't have been there for me in the first place. But I thought he was sort of left out to the Wolves a little bit. Once again, wouldn't have picked him as well, but I thought TPJ was sort of left out to the Wolves a little bit as well. So I do get where Latrell's coming from. And I mean, when was the last time you got to an Origin series and there was a question about whether a Queensland player was available?
Yeah.
New South Wales, it's like, is Latrell available? Is he going to play? Is Jack Whiten going to play? Is he going to be available? To me, I still can't fathom why Jack's not playing Origin football.
Timmy, what do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, I think. First and foremost, I think they've made the right decision to recall him into the team. As a Blues fan, I'm thrilled about it. Around the comments, some elements definitely true, but I think things like saying unfairly maligned by whether it's media or people, I don't entirely agree with. Like, I think the Origin environment, you want a camp where there's not too many external noise and headlines that, you know, can potentially impact it and produce sort of a toxic culture in around camp. I'm not saying Latrell Mitchell does that, but we know that he's a walking headline, Latrell. And whether it's positive or negative, there's always headlines around him. Not always his fault, but he also doesn't help it at times himself with like a lot of social media use, whether it's comments after a game, whatever it might be, even after game one when he put the Instagram story up that was then later deleted. Things like that, I'm like, well, you're not making life any easier on yourself. So I think...
that's why it's like, it's a mixture of...
It's a mixture.
Both. Like, he could have been protected a bit more. But at the same time, we saw like earlier this year with the swearing after... just a little bit smarter. And it wouldn't... The hard thing with Latrell, though, he's probably sitting there going, no matter what I do, I'm getting smashed. You know, so he's probably thinking, I'll just do whatever. But I agree with you, like, he could move a little bit smarter to reduce some of that noise to a degree.
Yeah, and even, like, he hasn't played State of Origin since 2021. Sometimes through injury, whether it's been dropped at times. But, correct me if I'm wrong, but was it 2 years ago? He made himself unavailable.
I think it was last year. He was injured last year. The year before, he made himself
unavailable. So it's like, and he wanted to, I think that the time it was to focus on South Sydney and club footy, which is fine, and like I respect that. But, you know, to sit there and have not played in that amount of time when, mate, you ruled yourself out of one of those series.
Well, I think he's alluding to, I mean, that could allude to if he felt more protected, he probably wouldn't have ruled himself out potentially. Like,
yeah,
that's what,
and maybe. And look, mate, I don't know the ins and outs of Latrell's experiences in Blues camp. And I probably never will know them. So I'm sure he's got his reasoning behind that. But as an outsider looking in, I just think it goes both ways a little bit. And, you know, he's back in the team now and there's going to be more noise around him. And hopefully that can galvanise the group and they can use it to their benefit. And footy-wise, I think he comes out as a stormer. As we know, he's a big game player. I'm so happy he's there. I'm sure every Queensland fan is disappointed that he's there because, as I said, Guru said, he's frightening on the field. And week to week, NRL-wise, sometimes you can, you know, question his output and his form. But for 1, 2, 3 big Origin games, he's going to get up for it. And he could be the best player on the field.
I think the going into this camp, I think Mike Maguire needs to say to him, mate, I got your back, you know, and 100%. And publicly, Madge needs to be like all in on Latrell. Like anyone that tries to entertain this chat about is he committed to the jersey and like any of that, there shouldn't be any hesitation to go, absolutely not, he is fully committed. But then if I'm Michael Maguire, I'd be asking in return, Trell, this week, just keep it all internal.
And I agree with you 100%, mate. But I think it's also important that Latrell needs to realise he's not bigger than the New South Wales Blues or anyone else in the team. So if he goes in there and buys into it, as you sort of said that he would, and be comfortable in camp, then, albeit, and buy into Latrell in return. But this is a team sport. Yeah,
I totally agree with you saying. I think that, like, that's why Madge needs to be like, I got your back 100%, but in return, this is what I need from you, Trell. Yeah. Like, look, the thing is, I don't think Trell thinks he's bigger than the team. So it's a fine line because he's a superstar. Like, he's not just like every other player. So you can't just go, oh, you're just like every other player. But at the same time, you need to have a team-first mentality. So it's a fine balance. So if I'm Michael Maguire, I'm backing him 100%, but I'm also saying, in return from you, I need you to back me 100%. And, like, this is the way I want to go do this camp. I need you fully behind it. And that means, like, you know, fully locking in, you know, we're probably not going to do a lot of interviews with journos during the time that you're in camp. We're going to keep you real quiet. And it's all just going to be about how can we make you the biggest beast possible come 10 days from now. And I think that's going to be the best trade-off because when he goes into camp, there's going to be a lot of media that are going to want interview after interview after interview. If I was Madge, I'd be like, let's just keep a lid on it for now and focus in on the team first. And that's almost like, if you've got my back, I got your back. That's how I'd be rolling if I was Madge.
I agree, and I think as well the thing that probably helps the situation, the game's in Melbourne.
Yeah, away from
Sydney. If it's in Sydney or Brisbane, you probably because like that's the reality of it too. The media is going to try and bait Latrell during the week.
For sure.
But they've got to be aware that that's obviously coming.
Yeah.
For the record, like, I think he does buy into it. I think they'll buy into him. I think it'll all be terrific, and I think he comes out and kills it. But yeah, I just want to see it.
Yeah, no, mate. I mean, it's Origin. Like, you're not just going to walk in and absolutely. You've got to be fully focused in. And I think, like, look what Wayne did. Wayne did it perfectly. Like, he fully, he treated Latrell differently to other players because Latrell is different. He's a superstar, and that's just the way rugby league is, the way any. But in return, that actually got Latrell to buy in more to the team because Wayne said, "I'm your man. I got your back no matter what." And that's all. Like, Latrell's the kind of guy outside looking in, and I'd consider myself friends with Latrell. Like, he just wants to be loved, and I know that sounds really fucking cliche, but as a footy player, if you've got your coaching staff that are just fully behind you, that's when you actually buy more into the team. Whereas when you feel like, because let's be honest, like it did feel like there was a bit of friction between Freddie and Trell and a few other players. Now, whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. Whereas like here, if Madge can go, like, we're all in together, I think you're going to see the best version of Trell.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, isn't it bizarre, like, you always talk about, like, when you get to the end of the season, teams in the grand final, they tend to be the teams that have the least amount of noise around them. Noise is almost a positive for Latrell.
Yeah,
I just feel like when there's noise around, he just goes,
Yeah.
fucking beautiful.
Look at
I'm
the
the
last
guy and
3
I
weeks.
want to be the guy. Like
the last 3 weeks, there couldn't have been more noise around Latrell, and he has just gone, thanks for coming.
And around Latrell, like, obviously no grand finals in a few years, a few tougher seasons with the Bunnies. Like, Latrell knows that he's one of the best players in the game. I think in Latrell's head, he's probably going, when I'm on, I'm the best player in the NRL, and, I wouldn't knock it on his day because he can be near unstoppable. And, no Origin since 2021. As you said, all the noise around him, Guru, that he'll thrive on. I can see him coming out and just going, no, I'm just going to remind people at whatever level, I'm the best in the game. So it's so exciting as a Blue supporter. And around the selection of him, it would have killed me if we came out and got done in game 2, series over, and we didn't pick Latrell. I'm like, you know what? If we get done, we're going out guns blazing, no stone unturned. If we didn't pick him, you'd go, what if we pick Latrell in the game 2, 2024? But now it's like, if it doesn't work, at least we had a crack.
Yeah, I'd rather die trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like this idea that Latrell isn't, like, he killed it at the Roosters. He killed it until Wayne was gone at the Rabbitohs. I know he had some injuries or whatever, but like he was playing great footy. Matty, you can attest to that. It's really been, what has it been? Since JD took over and the Rabbitohs have been struggling, whether these like weird stories have come out where he can't really gel with teams. Before that, there was no chatter around him not being able to gel with teams or having issues about fitting in. So, look, I think that he is absolutely the right decision because him, as I said before this all went down, him coming out and saying, I'm all in. That's all I want to hear from Latrell. If he says he's all in, that's it. That's for me. You have to select him if he says he's all in. If he says that I need to focus on club footy, but I'm here if you need me, that's when you go, you know what? Focus on your club footy. He seems all in. He seems... I mean, if there's one bloke that can turn this series around, it's Latrell Mitchell.
Yeah, for sure. And you have a look at, like, a lot of the negatives that, we've been able to find or that you've heard of over the last year or so when he's playing fullback. Like, he doesn't have to deal with those playing centre. And you look at his record at centre. Like,
his record at centre is
it's unbelievable. And you look at, when he was back at the Roosters playing centre, like, I don't think he gets enough credit. Like, he came up with a flick pass that won the 18 grand final.
Like a flick pass. Like, it never gets spoken about.
No one talks about it.
It was
it's
a
bizarre.
friggin' flick pass to win the game. And because it's Trell, and we're so used to Trell doing this crazy shit, we just go, oh, yeah, sweet, whatever.
Yeah, and then 2019, he comes out, like, he's still a kid. He goes up against Will Chambers, one of the best, if not the best centre of that generation, who's public villain #1 for 10 years and the best at it by far and away. And, look, with all due respect to Chambers, Latrell absolutely bullied him that night.
It was, to be honest, it was almost like, Chambers, it almost confirmed that he was probably towards the end of his Origin career because this young gun had just come up. So, look, I think that with Trell, he's not perfect either, for sure. Like, he does some silly things, as all young men do silly things. But that doesn't mean that if you give him the right environment, he's not going to grow. And I think that Madge can create that right environment for Trell. And I think that you had to select him. You had to select him. And I'm happy for him because if there's one thing, everything that's happened to the Rabbitohs this year, they've turned around. They're playing really well for good footy. And then if he goes into Origin and plays some really good footy, all of a sudden, South Sydney go from, holy shit, where we could win the spoon to, you know what, yeah, it was a bad start to the year, but we're actually nowhere near as bad as we thought we were. And really, it's him and Cody Walker that have been key components of this turnaround.
And the thing that I like about him playing centre, because he's got some of the best hands in rugby. He's got some of the best hands I've ever seen.
It's honestly crazy.
For his size and everything, it's just crazy. But I love that when he's playing centre, it means that he can't rely on that. It means that he has to just rely on his running game. which is the scary thing for
Well,
me.
Broncos found that out on the weekend where he just said, "Oh, give me the ball," and just went, just steamroll.
Well, yeah, without getting ahead of ourselves, like if Latrell does come out and kill it, to think like the confidence that he'll go back to club footy with in a club that a team that is already turning their form around, 3 on the trot now, it's very exciting for them.
Look, this is how good Latrell is. He's a polarising character, I get it. And we always say, if you don't like Latrell, as in if you're not a fan of him personality-wise, understandable, you're allowed to be a fan of whoever you want. But the amount of negative, like, so back in the day, like earlier this year, you could put a post up on social media that literally had nothing to do with the Rabbitohs, and that would be a negative comment about Latrell there. Now, the amount of positive comments around Latrell of New South Wales fan going, like, we need to get this guy in, it is honestly night and day.
Can I give an example as well? I was at the game on Friday, whenever it was, and when Trell got wrongfully sin binned for running in, my first reaction was, oh no, people are going to be all over the comments here saying this is shit, like Latrell, stop being stupid. All the comments were, that was a terrible call, like, what's going on? Like, that wouldn't happen a month
4
ago.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
He's getting absolutely
Smashed.
annihilated. So I hope, as I said, I hope even Trell can almost take advantage of this. And like, if he does turn this series around, he'll turn from like one of the most polarising players to one of the most loved players. Like, and so what is he, 26 now? Like, it's just like insane.
Mate,
I hope he does.
when I was over there in Las Vegas, the night that Fox League did a show over there at one of the casinos, and I was trying to find where it was, and I was walking through this casino. You know what Vegas is like. It's fucking huge. I was lost. No one could help me. I'm walking around, and I didn't realise, but behind me was JD, Damien Cook, and Latrell. And I hear someone like sort of giggling at me, and I turned around to Latrell, and he could tell I was lost, and he was pissing himself laughing. He goes, "Oh, it's down here." And then as we went to walk, Tom and Eddie just happened to be sitting just at a table there, so I sat down with them. I just watched Latrell walk 100 metres. And the amount of people that were coming up to him and the amount of time he had each, it wasn't have a photo, it was, hey, how are you? How's your trip been? Where have you been? Like, it was just, and you know, if you read social media, like, he has to be the biggest asshole of all time.
No, he's not.
But then you
He's
actually,
really not.
you meet him in real life, and I'm sure that anyone that's ever had an opportunity to spend time with Latrell, he's a very impressive character. He's got a lot of time.
He's
for everyone.
and for the size of superstar that he is, the amount of time he has for people, like, he genuinely gives people actual time, not just fake. Like, not only that, like, you know, when all the bushfires were happening, look, we could speak ad nauseum about all the stuff he does off the field, and let's not conflate that with, like, that doesn't mean he's perfect. Like, he still does make mistakes. He's still, and they're not big mistakes. They're like, you know, posting things to social media maybe he shouldn't have, or, you know, the interview after a game where he's swearing a lot. Like, these are like mistakes of a frustrated young athlete that if he had his time back, he'd probably go, you know what, I probably wasn't thinking.
On a scale of shit that rugby league players do wrong, the stuff that Latrell gets criticised for is so unbelievably low on that scale. It's just because of his personality and, you know, the fact that people do get upset by him. So anything that he does do wrong, even minor, it's like mountains out of molehills.
And also, he's done some grubby stuff on the footy field, so it's just like you're waiting for a reason to.
But there's also a big part of me, and like, I don't go for a team, so you can probably talk about it more. But like, if you don't hate the opposition player, they're doing something wrong, aren't they?
Well, it's
like the game's built on characters.
Well, it's like the Marnie situation. Like, I didn't enjoy watching Marnie niggle, but at the same time, they're winning games, and Doggies fans love him. So it's like, it is what it is.
He turned 27 yesterday.
Turned 27 yesterday. So I'm excited for Trell. I want to see the redemption story, and hopefully, you know, this is the start of a foundation with Madge that he can grow into a leader of this group. Because I tell you what, centre pairing of Stephen Crichton and Latrell Mitchell is unbelievably scary.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not sure if it all lines up or not, but like, if we were to win game 2 and go to Suncorp in 3 weeks' time and maybe bring Turbo back, then we got a fucking series on our hands.
Oh, wow. So look, I think as soon as he said he's all in, I think you had to select him. And, you know, also, I respect his honesty in those interviews. Like, that was a very honest interview that he didn't necessarily have to. We always talk about wanting players to not be robotic. He's wearing his heart on his sleeve. So I hope it turns around. What do you reckon, Hammy?
Yeah, well, about the comments or just generally about
Just in general.
everything? Yeah, well, I mean, he's an absolute handful. I think everyone's kind of spoken about the fact that he's probably one of the players that Queensland fear. So good selection to get him in there. Loves the big stage. Scored a try the last time. I think they played in Melbourne as well. Looking forward to seeing kind of what he brings to the series. The remarks, I wondered whether when I first read him, I was like, maybe we could have done without him, but maybe he also he said enough without saying too much of, that's maybe why he wasn't as interested in playing under the old kind of coaching situation. So, yeah, he probably provided a little bit of clarity there without going into too much granular detail. But the way that he's been playing, I mean, he's just looked so, like that jersey's been dangled in front of him. He's done everything he could have. He had to be picked. And as a Queensland fan, a little bit concerned about, what he's going to bring in game 2.
Yeah, like agree or disagree with the comments. At least there's some clarity now as to how he was feeling about the whole situation. Whether you might disagree with him, but at least you know why he feels that way and why there were certain things didn't seem to kind of make sense.
To get even more excited, he also comes up against Val Holmes, who's forgotten how to tackle this year, so he's going to have a field day.
Don't do this, Timmy. Fucking do this,
Flip
mate.
it up. Flip it up. Flip it up.
But on that edge to have, I would argue Angus is the form back row of the competition right now. Latrell Mitchell, we know when he goes to centre what he does, and Brian Toto,
it's a crazy edge. It's a crazy edge.
Pop that clip on the new website when Val Holmes scores a hat-trick.
Okay, Dylan Edwards back in. Look, I don't think there's much to speak about this. I thought he was going to be there anyway. I will say he looked a bit rusty's the wrong word because he hasn't been out of playing league for that long. I feel like his last 3 games of NRL, he probably hasn't been playing as well as he did to start the season. So I was watching the game. If I was being hypercritical about Dylan Edwards yesterday, going, look, he's absolutely the man for the job, but he did just to look a little bit let's say he has been a 10 out of 10 to start for most of the year. I reckon he's been at about an 7.5, 8 out of 10 for about 3 weeks now.
I actually, based on the standards he says, I don't think Rusty was unfair. That's what I sort of thought over the last few weeks too.
Sorry, not that. So rusty is probably the wrong word to use because it's like rusty as if he hasn't played rugby league for a while. But I think that he's, in regards to what rusty means of his standard of footy.
Compared to his standard, 100%. Yeah. I agree. I mean, he didn't play a bad game yesterday afternoon or anything. But I still think he's the obvious choice. He was the guy for game 1. Teddy had his opportunity, in my opinion, didn't take it with 2 hands. So it has to be Edwards.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, very excited about it and made complete sense. As Guru said, Teddy had his opportunity to keep the spot. Granted, with 12 blokes, didn't have a lot of favours, but yeah, he wasn't at his best. And Dylan Edwards, who was picked for this specific side, and it's funny because we did so much of a preview into it with him in the team, and now we're going back to it, but he hasn't played yet. So, mate, I'm very happy to see him there. Can't wait to see what he does on the Origin stage, and yeah, I think with this entire team, he just fits in beautifully.
Yeah, it's going to. Mitchell Moses with Dylan Edwards, Mitchell Moses and Luai. I wonder, do you think he's usually on the right side?
Right side.
Right side. Do you think he'll swing both sides, or do you think they'll have a pretty... Because Luai was on the left side.
The fact that it's got... Yeah, so Luai's left, which... and Brian Toto on the left as well. The fact that at club level, I know it's different and you've got different halves combinations there, but... I would imagine he plays a pretty similar role that he does at NRL level for the Panthers, and he'll spend the majority of his time in attacking ball going down the right edge. Maybe goes down the left a little bit, but we don't really see it that often with him.
I'd rather see the halves more link up on that left edge. Play together down there.
Okay, so you park him out on that right edge essentially, and then you get Mitchell Moses to link up with Luai on the left
Especially when you got Gus and Latrell out there.
Yep. I tell you what, just early ball.
I've made 100%.
Early ball.
Seeing the exact same. You don't need to overthink it. Jerome Luai needs to play direct, engage defenders, and just give them early ball. Don't need to overthink it, do they? Because between Crichton and Latrell Mitchell, they don't need anything special. Just give them a bit of space, a bit of time to weave their
Seriously,
magic.
all you need to do if you're Luai, it sounds really simple, if you can just hold your defender and give them a ball early enough where they can make decisions as to what they're going to do with their lines, they might not score that try, that tackle. They're probably someone's going to score 2 tackles later because of quick play of the ball.
They're big enough weapons out there. You don't even need to create. You just need to get them one-on-one.
Just get them one-on-one and just have either if Edwards does swing around and just floats around them, just to be there for an offload, maybe. But yeah, I think you just get early ball to
I'll tell you what, with that left edge as well, and I think it'll be an important part of this game at some point. Jerome Luai's running game over the last few weeks with all the eyes on that edge. He could terrorise them.
Yeah, it's going to be. It's just that kind of tier above that Crichton and Latrell can offer it is scary to think they're going to be together. And if you're a defender looking up going, holy shit, I've got Crichton and Latrell coming at me and Toto, it's going to be like tough. It's a tough night at the office, let's put it that way.
Do you want to wait for Queensland? Do you think he maybe moves his...
We'll wait for Queensland. Okay, Mitchell Moses brought in for Nicho Hynes. Similar-ish to Edwards to a degree. I actually think his last 2 games, he's been solid, but he didn't close out the Bulldogs game in the second half. He was really good the first half. And then against the Roosters, he had his moments, but it was actually more Dylan Brown for me that kind of swung that game in their favour for a period. So another guy that absolutely deserves to be there, but has been a little bit quiet the last couple of games.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I was out at the Parramatta game the other night and just watching the way that Mitch Moses just dictate, like he's a halfback's halfback.
Yeah,
Mitch Moses, and being out, I know they didn't win the game and he didn't come up with those big plays, but everyone at Parramatta just knows their role at every moment during the game because Mitch Moses, he is so vocal, and I feel very confident with his selection.
Also feel more confident. I think it was the right decision. And if you look at the team now, outside of potentially Latrell, it's pretty well the team they would have picked for game 1, I think, prior to injuries occurring. So I think, firstly, I don't think we've seen the last of Nicho Hynes in the Origin arena. I think he's going to get better year on year. He's still not that old, and I think he'll have his place in time. But Mitch Moses is the right option now, and he just brings a more experienced head, especially as a halfback. Kicking game's a big one. I have so much more confidence with Mitchy Moses' kicking game, his ability to close out sets, come up with the right decision. His long kicking game's really good as well. I think Mitchy's shown his ability to perform in big games. I don't think he'll be overwhelmed by it. I feel very good about having Mitchy Moses come back into that side.
Hammy, what do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, I think I actually agree with Timmy there on Nicho Hynes. I reckon he'll be back at some stage as well. It's interesting, the 2 stints he's had in Origin, there's always been like something to go away and work on. So the first one was probably the defence, and that's like gotten a lot better this year. This time around, probably the thing where Moses has got the jump on him is the kicking game. So I'm sure he'll go away and work on that. And he's already got so many other ingredients that are a lot harder to learn as a halfback under control already. So I'm actually with you there. It's interesting, Edwards and Moses, I reckon they're 2 of about probably 4 selections in this team that they wanted for game 1 but couldn't have due to injury and stuff like that. Coming into that game, the game 1, Edwards, I agree, he was in a lot better form. Moses as well. He's shown some little glimpses, but I'm not sure that he's probably shown the form that he had leading into his injury break that, definitely demanded selection. But if the thing that they're after out of their number 7 is, a better kicking game, I think he was still probably the right way to go for game 2.
And the other factor to it as well, you mentioned defence there, but I just feel so much more comfortable with Mitchy Moses in the defensive line than Nicho Hynes. Like you mentioned, Hammy, Nicho from last year to this year, his defence has come on tenfold, but as it stands, Mitch Moses is a better defender at 3-man than Hynes is. And I allude to it a few times and refer back to it, but there was that 2-game stretch where he had to, couple of years ago, up against Dave Fafita, and he'd had a few issues defensively, Mitchy, like a bit of a smaller body in the halves, and it was just like, felt almost career defining where he goes, all right, if I'm going to become an elite number 7 in this game and become a regular for the Blues, I need to get my defence in order. And there were 2 weeks in a row, one for the Eels and then one for the Blues, where he just did a tremendous defensive job on David Fafita, the best, most damaging attacking back rower in the game. I think off the back of that, he hasn't looked back. His defence ever since then has been rock solid.
I think it's that coincides with when Joey was helping him at the Eels. His defence just got substantially better because that was really what was stopping him from becoming an elite 7, was probably big game moments and his defence. And his defence since then, put it this way, been at least, 3 years since I've gone, this season, last season, maybe even the season before, where I've ever worried about Mitchell Moses' defence going into a big game.
Yeah, and you'll even look at the team now. I remember before game 1, you sort of see going, all right, where are the defensive weaknesses in the Blues? You meant they'll be attacking Nicho Hynes. We spoke about it at nauseam before it. They'll be going at him. They'll be going at like Joseph Suaalii out of position. You now put Latrell Mitchell back to centre. You look at Mitchy Moses at 7. Across the board, it's a pretty rock solid team. That there's no areas that stand out that go, all right, the Maroons could have a field day through this spot or this spot. It's a very well-rounded defensive outfit.
Yeah. Well, when I look at that side, really the only thing defensively that I can look at and I go, probably Jake Trbojevic laterally isn't that quick. Outside of that, but then obviously Trbojevic makes up with it with his great technique, doesn't miss tackles. But outside of that, there's not really a defensive weakness there. There really isn't on the starting side.
Given what we had, like the guys that we could choose from, this is just about the happiest I've been with the Blues team. Maybe ever, honestly.
Yeah, it's actually, when you think about it, even though there were big decisions made, I'm not shocked or I don't know how this is going to work out, or it's actually it all kind of fits in place quite well for what that he's going for.
Yeah, and I mean, I the only one that I really saw people being a bit negative about online was Connor Watson. Some people, and I'm like, you all bagged him for picking a 4-forward bench. He's picked literally the most versatile player in the competition.
And have you been watching the Roosters?
He's been killing it.
And you look at the question marks going into game one around, a few debutants in Spencer Leniu and Zach Lomax, who were arguably our two best in that game. So sweet, covered there. Connor Watson, obviously get to him shortly, but we've got our bench utility that we were all really keen on. So rock solid.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts on the team, Matty?
I love the team. I think it's really, really good. Selfishly, as a South fan, it's been a really tough year. Going back to last Magic round, but seeing Latrell and Cam Murray come back just filled me with so much joy last night. And I really hope other New South Wales fans feel the same way, because they just bring so much life into this team. And then Connor Watson, seriously, so happy for him. He was playing reserve grade this year. That's ridiculous. He's had so many injuries. He's had a bit of a tough run at it. And I reckon about 7 or 8 years ago, I would have said he's definitely playing Origin one day. And then for the last 5 years, I was like, probably not. But now, so stoked to see him back there. I think Moses had to come back in. I won't go into it because you guys already said it, but Nico Hines will be there again. I feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for Cam McInnes. He couldn't have done much more in game one, but unfortunately, it was no fault of his own, really. But yeah, as a whole, I like the team.
Yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for Cam McInnes for sure. Absolutely did not let himself down. He didn't let the state down. But it's just one of those things that, Cam Murray, just a better footy player at the moment. It's just the way it is.
He's an Origin player. He has to be there. There's no... Yeah, I feel really sorry for Hudson Young and Cam McInnes, because I don't think they deserve to get dropped. I think Hudson was sort of put on a bit of a weird spot. It was already a weird spot on the bench for him anyway. Once you went down to 12, it just made life very difficult. I don't think they deserve to get dropped, but I can't disagree with any of the decisions.
Cam Murray is literally one of the best forwards in the NRL. So it's if you're going to get replaced, you're going to get replaced by essentially the Australian back rower, or he is in the top 17 regardless of state. So it's it sucks. It's just the way it is. Origin is the pinnacle. I have no doubt that you'll find probably Cam McInnes finds his way onto the bench or finds his way back into Origin. But yeah, it's just one of those things that Cam Murray is. And also, Cam Murray's done it in Origin so many times.
I think as well with Cam Murray, there's every chance if he wasn't injured a few weeks ago, not as in that team, I reckon he would have been a chance.
I've been a captain. Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's very, very fascinating how that's played out. If Cam Murray was fit, as I said, I think he probably would have been named captain as well. Cam McInnes, who was really good in game one, was it 43 tackles and 1 miss or 0 misses or something?
I think it's 0 miss, yeah.
So, he's done nothing wrong. Had Cameron Murray been available, would they have gone with McInnes and potentially not gone with Jake Trbojevic? Obviously, the leadership and being captain was a big factor because you probably, with Cam Murray back, you don't need to carry all of Jake Trbojevic, Isaiah, Cameron McInnes. And, Hudson Young and McInnes dropping out, if there wasn't for injuries, they probably wouldn't have been there in the first place in game one. Maybe Hudson sneaks onto the bench, but I don't think so. I think this is essentially the team they would have gone with for that opening game. So could look very different if Cam Murray was available for game one.
Just on Cam, we all have short memories. I remember being extremely frustrated last year that he hadn't started at lock yet. And then when he finally did, it was all right. So we just got to remember that he is the number one pick for that number 13 jersey.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Isn't it? As Tim just said, if everyone was fit last game, who's the captain? Who would have been there? Who wouldn't have been this series? There's just so many questions that I don't think we're ever going to know the answers to.
Yeah,
that just makes it between this
Nico
Dave
Hines
Fifita situation, this Nico Hines situation.
Yeah. Was he the number one guy going in, and then the performance made him get replaced, or was Mitchell Moses always the number one guy?
Even the selections that Madge made in game one and the team he went with, because it went down to 12, we never really got any of those questions answered.
The minutes played by Jake Trbojevic, was that because of the 12 man, or was it because that was always planned? But yeah, I mean, as I said, like Cam McInnes, he didn't let his state down. I think we'll find him in a Blues jersey again. It's just a matter of, unfortunately, you're in the position of a guy that is in the top 17 regardless of state, but also like in Origin, he changes games for you. Like he changes series for you.
Yeah.
And I think it's become evident that the game 3 last year where he got moved to 13 and it just seemed to just freeze up a lot. I think it was almost like the nail in the coffin for McInnes that as soon as Cam Murray was ready that he'd be back in. So I feel sorry for McInnes, but just the way it is. In regard to Hudson Young, similar situation through no fault of his own. It was just one of those, he didn't get used correctly. He got thrown on for like 20 minutes. The game didn't pan out the way it did to suit a guy like Hudson Young. He didn't give him time to actually show what he can do. So I think that he'll be back in a Blues jersey over the next few years.
And I think this team selection shows that Connor Watson was the first choice guy to have on that bench. He got injured. Hudson came into the side, and I agree with him. I think he'll play many games for the Blues in the future.
Yeah, and I think that's Michael Maguire is like, I think he's one of his most important jobs this year as being a new coach is all these guys like McInnes, your Hudson Youngs, your Nico Hines, even other, your Suoli. I mean, no, Suoli is going, but, your outside backs like Bradman Best, stay in contact.
Yeah.
Let them know that you're still a part of the team. You're still a New South Welshman. You're not in here with us in the squad, but the extended squad of like people that are eligible, like you are one of them. As long as he does that, you really can build something. Whereas, we've already spoken about earlier. I think we can all agree there was a period there where the communication with players getting dropped just probably wasn't, from all reports anyway, and people talking, it didn't sound like there was much communication when he did get dropped. I think even like when Jake Trbojevic got dropped, he didn't really get spoken to.
A lot of stories.
There's a lot of stories like that. So I hope Madge has learned a lot from that and builds from that. But yeah, Connor Watson, perfect 14. And how good is it to see him in Origin? Like a guy that has been so unlucky with injury. There was a period there where we thought Sandon Smith might jag the 14 jersey for the Roosters over Connor Watson. Then Connor Watson comes and kills it. He gets the jersey.
Well, he did have it round 1. Like in Vegas, Connor missed out on selection.
Yeah, well, was he injured?
No, he missed. No, I spoke to him the day
He was coming back from a long...
he was coming back, but
Yeah,
he was available, and he was everyone's 14 on every predicted team
Yeah.
list, and he went Sandon, and that feels like an age ago. It really wasn't that long ago.
Angus Crichton, same boat, wasn't he?
Yeah, Angus Crichton missed
Angus
selection
Crichton,
too.
same
They
boat.
both went back to Cup, and like as you said, Connor was coming back from injury. He played 3 weeks straight of 80 minutes at lock in New South Wales Cup.
Yeah. So stoked for Connor Watson and this new fast style of Origin. Like, geez, he suits it. Holy! Like when you bring him on and you've got guys like Cam Murray, Liam Martin, Crichton to a degree as well. Connor Watson, like the leg speed through the middle. Reece Robson, like that is fast leg speed through the middle.
Yeah, and we always say it. Just because you can play 80 minutes at hooker doesn't mean you should. And mate, if Connor, and the beauty of Connor is you don't have to bring him on and take Reece off. You can play one of them at 13 just to give a bit of a spell.
Yeah.
You can. Yeah, I'm really excited to see how Connor Watson goes.
And you don't positive as well as like let's say you do take Cam Murray off for Connor Watson to give him a little bit of a spell. You don't lose leg speed that much. You may lose the incredible quick play of the ball that Murray has, but not by a lot. Like Connor Watson can still get down and get up really quickly. So yeah, really good stuff. Going to be interesting to see Isaiah Yeo and the Jake Trbojevic. Those two guys for me, like I personally think Isaiah Yeo did well in game 1, but I've seen a lot of people that feel like he just doesn't seem to connect in Origin. I think those two players, it's going to be. I don't think they're not necessarily playing for, like Jake Trbojevic a bit different because he's older, but if they come out and they struggle or don't set the world alight, I do think that one of them could get changed in game 3 if they lose game 2.
I personally think if Isaiah Yeo didn't throw that intercept, I don't reckon you hear too much negative.
There's been
about
so
Isaiah.
much. I thought he was great. I honestly thought he was good. Yeah, it was an intercept or whatever. But I think if you tell Isaiah Yeo, mate, go on and play front row, just don't worry about the ball playing, I think he's fine for Origin. I mean, but it does seem the general consensus is that him and Jake Trbojevic are two guys that, could have a bit of pressure on him in
Like,
regard.
I sort of thought Isaiah pretty much played as a middle forward in that game.
I mean, the argument would be, will that pass?
If you take that pass out, which I think is what a lot of people that maybe don't like Penrith or don't like that style in the state of Origin, I think that's what a lot of people are leaning on when they're bagging Isaiah.
Well, there was a period when Cam McInnes only played like 50 minutes or something, so he must have been 13 at some stage. You'd have to assume. But as I said, I thought his game one was good. Timmy, what do you think? Game one?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. He said outside of the pass, and I do think there will be some pressure on him. I mean, in 2 weeks' time, we could have potentially lost 3 series in a row, and he's been a staple of this team for a lot of that period. So questions have to be asked, especially when you've got someone like Cameron McInnes who was rock solid in game one, and
Mitch Barnett as well.
Mitch Barnett, there's options there. So look, I wouldn't have him in much. Like, I'm happy he's there. I think you'd have to have a shocker to not get picked for game 3, but when you look at results and there are some similar enough middle forwards who can do a similar job to him, yeah, there's going to be questions asked if we get done.
Yeah. I think the way I see it, and I look at like Jake Trbojevic and Isaiah Yeo, because they are, Isaiah does bend the line, but because they just don't have the same leg speed as, say, Mitch Barnett, I think that's why people are kind of focusing on them and going, okay, in the modern game, do they have the leg speed for Origin? I personally think Isaiah Yeo does, but I can understand the argument of, like, when you watch Mitch Barnett take a hit up and you watch Isaiah Yeo take a hit up, Mitch Barnett is quite explosive in contact. But I still think there's a space in Origin for guys like Isaiah Yeo in forward pack. So I think he's good. I really do. I think he's great in defence. I don't think his defence gets enough of raps. I think he bends the line quite a bit. Is it as explosive as a Mitch Barnett or a Cam Murray or whatever? No, it's not as explosive, but it's still bending the line. It's still getting quick play of the balls. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But look, I think with who they could select, they really haven't set a foot wrong in their selections.
So what I love to see yesterday afternoon, mate, was Olakau'atu, and I know he played last week, but he got injured. But to see him go back to clubland and just absolutely dominate during the Origin period,
he is so good.
I love, he was the best player on the field, probably not named DCE. He was great.
He is just so destructive. Every time he gets the ball, he is just bushing people.
Do you spare a thought for Matt Burton at all? Isn't he on the squad?
Mate, I love that my biggest issue with this side is jersey 20.
Look, I think to be honest, I think it's probably, you wouldn't base selections off this. I think it's the fact that Connor Watson's in this squad, that they've gone, you know what, it'd be pretty shitty of us to put him at 18th man when we've got that covered in Bulldogs. He's been 18th man for 3, 4 years. In saying that, I, as an Origin coach, wouldn't let that sway my selections. But I do think Connor Watson is probably the reason why they've gone, you know what, we should be sweet, utility-wise.
I would have had Nicho Hines and Matt Burton, potentially even Isaiah Cartel before Luke Keary.
Yeah, the 20, I'm talking about 18 that'll go into the game, because that's where Burton is.
Oh, I've got no problem with Barnett. I do find this Keary, him being a staple of this squad, very interesting.
Do you think it's because he was under Madge?
It has to be, but
No Nicho at... Keary, very much at the back end of his career. Nicho, who, as I think we all agree, probably haven't seen the last of him in the Origin arena, or at least I hope not. He gets so much out of being in this camp again. I know he's been in for 2 games now, but just being in and around it. The Sharks are on the bye as well. He'd have been playing regardless if it was 19th or 20th man, but what do you really achieve having Luke Keary there? I guess if Moses or Luai were to go... Even if Moses or Luai went down...
Hines would go in,
they could still bring in Hines, though. So I don't... What do you get out of having Keary there and not Nicho Hines?
And if one of the halves did go down, I am so confident they bring in Burton or Nicho Hines. What do you reckon?
Look, I think there's a very push and pull between clubs and the coaches. For example, if I'm the Sharks and Nico's not playing, I'm like, mate, I want him to have his bye. I don't want him in training. I want him out resting.
Okay.
And I do think there's a lot of conversations with coaches going, look, is he in or not, mate? And if he goes, mate, he's not playing, I do think clubs go, well, can we have him?
Wonder if there's any, obviously got through the game on the weekend, okay, but just because he has had that lingering calf issue, I wonder did that come into it where they just said he needs to get this right and have the extended period off because of the bye? I don't know.
It's been a big year for Nicho. And so I think that in a perfect world, when you don't have to deal with clubs, you probably would maybe have different selections. But I think with someone like Burton, for example, the Bulldogs are surely saying to Michael Maguire, mate, please, if he's not, can we have him back? And Michael Maguire, he could probably put his foot down and say no, but then when you're dealing with clubs, it becomes harder. So I do think that dealing with clubs is a factor in Origin selections.
I still think that probably the best 18th man is Matty Burton. I don't think they really need him because they've got Connor Watson there now, who is the utility and can cover all the same positions essentially. But I get it. As I said, the Doggies are playing this weekend. They need him. He said multiple times he's been 18th man for the Blues and missed NRL action. So I understand it.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, they're playing the Roosters. Luke Keary.
Well, yeah, he'll be back. Okay. Origin side. What was the most smart decision in the Origin side, boys?
I think it's got to be Latrell.
Charlie Mid?
Picking a bench utility, mate. Connor Watson.
Connor Watson?
I'll go putting Murray at 13.
Take your pick, Latrell or Watson.
Look, I thought Latrell was a sure thing. If he says he's in, he's in. I think it's Connor Watson at 14. I love it. I absolutely love it. He can cover any position, the leg speed through the middle, the footwork, even out of dummy half when they get a bit tired. Him scooting out is going to be tough to defend. Super durable, gets through a bunch of work, never really looks tired. So Connor Watson for me is the McSmart decision for New South Wales. Alrighty, time to do the Queensland side. Also, don't forget, guys, make sure to grab a case of Bloke Beer, the beer of rugby league. And it's beer for blokes that turn up for family, mates, and good times. We've got our lager, full-strength lager, easy drinking, and our mid-strength, absolutely beautiful. Both go down a treat and perfect for the weekend when you're sitting back watching footy or when you're sitting back and watching Origin. So get into your local, grab a case of Bloke Beer. Alrighty, let's get straight into it, shall we? And also, don't forget, after Game 2, we will be live on YouTube. Myself, Timmy, Mitchell Pearce, Matty, and we'll be calling Hammy in from the grounds. Live YouTube show straight after the game ends, reviewing the game. Alrighty, at 1 for Queensland, Reece Walsh. 2, Coates. 3, Holmes. 4, the Hammer. 5, Taulagi. 6, Dearden. 7, DCE. 8, Ruben Cotter. 9, Benny Hunt. 10, Lindsay Collins. 11, Jaden Sewer. 12, Jeremiah Nanai. 13, Paddy Carrigan. 14, Harry Grant. 15, Fodawaker. 16, Kofusi. 17, Kurt Catewell. 18, Origin Gags is back. 19, and that's Dan Gagai. 19, Hilam Lukey. And 20, Trent Lioro. Look, the biggest one, biggest shock, I'd assume most people are just as shocked, is Selwyn Cobbo not selected now. Come out that he's been playing with pain-killing injections. Getting kind of mixed news on this, whether it was because of injury, whether it was also a mixture of form as well. If I'm being honest, I think it's a bit of a mixture of both. If you go back, although he had some really, really big moments in Game 1, if you go back and watch his defence, he struggled quite a bit in the first half especially. And then on the weekend, obviously, he had a terrible game, made 1,000 errors and just didn't look right. And then obviously you add into the fact he's taking pain-killing injections to play. I think Billy he is a big proponent of picking fit people, as in like that, there's not a worry about injuries. But you would have assumed, okay, well, Selwyn Cobbo's not there. They're going to bring in an outside back on the bench. They haven't done that, which is super, super interesting. It just shows you how specific and thought out these selections are, because there's clearly clear game plans that are different from Game 1 to 2. But first of all, boys, thoughts about Selwyn Cobbo missing the side after winning Game 1?
Yeah, I find it more interesting that he hasn't replaced him with a like for like. We'll get to that soon. But, mate, I personally thought, like, that game against South Sydney, and I said on my podcast last night, like, as you said, the amount of errors he made, like, you just know that's not up to standard for Billy Slater. And, it's a game that he ran for 228 metres. He had 1 line break. He had 8 tackle breaks. Like, you want to just read the stats, 2 offloads. It's pretty impressive. But just eyeballing it, the amount of errors he made, like, it was just...
It was taking runs that, like, they're almost unnecessary when you're looking at what needs to happen. Like, for example, they're coming out of their own end and they're like runs where it's just purely focusing on like, oh, this looks fun. Like, I might be able to make a line break down a short side. Yeah. And although he may make a lot of meters, it puts the team in this really tough spot where you're like, we're in the corner now. We're getting jammed up. And like, I do think that it's all right. People won't. I mean, you can change it. What I'm saying is you don't. Anyway, all good. And with Selwyn, like, I do think Billy Slater, he does, he comes across and he is a coach that really does care about players. But let's not forget, who this guy is. This is a ruthless winner. And so he would tell all the boys, like, go back and play to the standard that is expected of this jersey. And I think it probably did have a little bit to do with Billy would have looked at that game and said, that's not up to the standard of the jersey at the moment.
Yeah, and that's that was the hallmark of those Melbourne Storm boys back in the day, is that they would take so much pride in going back to clubland and playing big minutes and dominating as well. Like it was like I remember during all those years thinking you'd have the Melbourne Storm in bye period. Yeah, beautiful, but those boys would make a point out of going back and dominating there as well.
Yep.
Every single year.
Absolutely. So, thoughts, Timmy?
Really odd one. I think the dropping Selwyn Cobbo, not super surprising based on club form, what you've just spoken about. Like, I'm okay with that, whether it is through injury, whether it's through form. Like you said, Campy, I think it's probably a mixture of both. But to not replace him with another utility surprises me so much. And I find it so intriguing that leading into Origin 1, my biggest criticism of the Blues team, and I think you boys are pretty similar, not picking utility on the bench. Billy Slater, who hadn't the year before picked utility on the bench, did so with Selwyn Cobbo. 7 minutes into that game, Slater's vindicated with that decision by having Cobbo and having the option to put him in when Reece Walsh went off. For the Blues, we were let down by because we didn't have someone to cover when Joseph Suaalii went off early on. And then you come to game 2, the Blues get their utility, and the Maroons go against it. And look, in Billy Slater's head, in fairness, he's probably going, right, Kurt Capewell, he's done a job at centre in Origin and can replace, be that outside back coverage, which is all good and well, but Kurt Capewell's form hasn't been that good this season. He's also missed a fair few games due to injury. He's also a little bit older. I don't know. I can get your thoughts, but I don't think it's a great decision.
Do you think that he's looking at it like, okay, if I had Dan Gagai or Selwyn Cobbo as 18th man last week, I would have been able to activate it? And he's looking at like, okay, if foul play is done to an outside back, I'll be able to activate Dan Gagai?
I think that's playing with fire because it's...
Oh, it's risky,
that doesn't happen that often. Like, put it this way, you see a lot more head knocks and failed HIAs, probably not as a result of foul play, of just like, head in the wrong place defensively, whatever it might be. So I think it's, treading on thin ice a little bit.
It is really... I'm really surprised with it, to be honest. First of all, like Kurt Capewell getting selected as well, he hasn't been that good for the Warriors. He started really well, but he hasn't been, setting the world alight.
He's also played 80 minutes of rugby league in the last 7 weeks.
Yeah. So the only thing that I was thinking is by the time kickoff rolls around, does Dan Gagai find himself at 17? And Kurt Capewell
It'd
goes
make
there?
more sense, but like based on what we saw in game 1. I don't know.
Yeah, because... I'm trying to think of reasons, okay, why would you not pick an outside back on the bench? And is it because Melbourne's going to be a slower truck maybe? And he's like, you know what, it's going to be... But then you look at, game 1, like it's going to be a slow track as well. Usually a bit more dewy, a bit more damp in Sydney. But maybe he's looking at it like Melbourne will be an even slower track, and that's why that would put it. But yeah, I'm quite surprised, to be honest. And the only thing I can think is by the time game day rolls around... Gagai gets put on the bench there as 17. Because outside of that, I would love to... When I saw the team get selected, I was like, I'd love to hear why. Because we know Billy would have a really in-depth reason as to why he doesn't put an outside back on the bench, especially after it was such a risky thing to do it on the first game, like game 1 in Sydney. And you've got Selwyn Cobbo, who... Although, big body and, he played a bit of forwards growing up. And, I understand the argument that Kurt Capewell can play centre, but at the same time, he's had one series where he was good in the centres, but the other series he got absolutely torn apart by Tom Trbojevic.
The Blues will be licking their lips if someone does go off and Capewell has to go to centre.
Yeah,
Put it that
and
way.
so it's similar to the Hudson Young argument we had with New South Wales last week, where, okay, he might be able to go out there and do a job, but he also... might get completely gassed by the opposition because he's a back rower defending in the centre. So
if one of the back 5 go down, you go and have either Stephen Crichton or Latrell Mitchell one-on-one with Kurt Capewell. And to be fair, they're not out-and-out speedsters, so physically he'll probably be okay, but as we know, defending at centre to back row, very different.
Well, and you're defending Latrell and Stephen Crichton.
Yeah.
This is cream of the crop kind of stuff. As I said, the only thing I can think of is maybe Gagai makes his way onto that bench before kickoff. Because Gagai, he's not as big as Selwyn, but he's still a pretty big boy. And he's so physical that, if you had to, you may be able to put him in the middle there.
Mate, I reckon you could. The way that he's been playing this year, I was just having a look at his stats throughout this year. He's had 2 games this year where he's had less than 6 tackle breaks.
He is so physical, so physical. Yeah. So then I think like, okay, well, why the curveball?
I mean, like, you have a look at Dane Gagai in the last 3 weeks. Like, is this not 3 of the best defensive sides in the competition? Canterbury, Melbourne, Penrith. He's gone 11, 8 and 8 tackle breaks.
Yeah.
Against those 3
killed
sides.
He's killed it.
He's playing better than he's ever played at Clubland, I reckon.
It's close. Up there, definitely. Up there for sure. So it is quite... it's confusing. I would love to know what his thoughts are. If this is the team he's going to run with in Melbourne, I'd love to know what his thoughts are if an outside back goes down.
What's changed?
Yeah.
Like, what's changed in now in game 1 where it was, justified?
Do you think he's sitting there going, okay, because Suaalii got sent off, the chances of foul play are really low because...
Nah, I reckon it's just too risky. Like, I don't... What it does say, he's just got a hell of a lot of confidence in Kurt Capewell to cover that spot if needed.
Yeah. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Tim. I reckon has got full confidence in Kurt Capewell, and I imagine like those games where Capewell would have come in and done those things. Was he playing in those games? Was that long enough ago? Or
no, that would have been
just after.
That would have been
Just
2020,
after?
I think.
20 was it?
2020 and 21.
He's only 30 Capewell, so he's not that old to be fair. Bit harsh, but
like with Capewell, what he does is he may have quite a few missed tackles, but he just goes all day. Like great cover defender, he'll compete with everything, but it's not necessarily like he's this incredibly good edge back row defender. So in regards to his first contact, he's really good at scramble, really good, but it's not like he's a Felice Kafusi of edge back rows defensively. What he does well on the edge back row, and I actually got it in my notes, Broncos miss him massively, is when a tough carry or when everyone's so fatigued and no one's about to take a run, Kurt Capewell will take that run. Like he does all the tough stuff really well. And so maybe he's just got full belief that Curtis Capewell has this, we look at a guy like Fafita where all the little things, Slater's looked at that and said he needs to get better at. Whereas Kurt Capewell, all the little things, all the 1%, he does do extremely well. I mean, it's pretty much how he's built his career, is all the little things, Kurt Capewell.
Yeah, and it's, I tend to agree with Tim. I don't love the selection by Billy, but knowing Billy Slater, there's something directly fucking in front of me that I can't.
There's got to be something.
Can't.
And that's what I'm trying to work out. Like, there's got to be something, like some kind of numbers or statistics that he's looked at and gone.
Yeah, as Tim just said, like Kurt Capewell's only 30 years old, which isn't that old, but like to me, he's playing older over the last 2 years.
Similar to Jack Trbojevic, only 30
Very
years
similar.
old.
Yeah, for sure. And I just, if he like in the role that he's been picked in there, if he does have to go and cover some outside backs, like, writes the game plan. Like,
would you be more happy with Dan Gagai at 17?
Yeah, I would. That's what I would do for sure. Because, mate, as a New South Welshman, if you're going to give Dane Gagai, if you're going to say to Gagai, hey, your state needs you for 20 minutes, rip and tear, I'm shitting myself.
Yeah, and if someone gets injured and you say, Gags, I need you to go Mark Luttrell, he's probably the one bloke I'd send after, even though Gags can have defensive reads sometimes,
not in that
jersey.
jersey.
Best. Yeah, but for Queensland, if there's one person literally in the entire state outside this name's not the Hammer, to go on Mark. Because I wonder whether they try and put Hammer on Trell. Because he's made 67 tackles, I think. He's only missed 2.
If you're not going to put Hammer on Trell, like I think at absolute minimum, you give him a bit of a roaming license.
Yeah.
Bit of a left field one for you, but just trying to think of Queensland players that can cover the back line a bit better. Bo Fermor, he's been in the squad before, yeah?
Yeah, extended squad, yeah.
Because 2 years ago he had an enormous year. Did his ACL last year. I think he's been quite good for the struggling Titans outfit this season. Don't get me wrong, I would still prefer a more out-and-out backline utility cover, but Fermor's played a lot of centre for the Titans.
I'll throw one at you. Kurt Mann.
I was about to say Kurt Mann.
K-Man.
I see.
Suspended, but...
Ben Hunt covers all that with Harry Grant. So if I've got at 17, I want an out and out back, big out and out back. I don't want a small back. I want a big out and out back.
I'm with you, but I'm probably looking at Fermor v Kurt Capewell. I'm like, they're probably going, Capewell's done it before, but I'd feel better Fermor defending at centre than Capewell, I think.
I think there's a lot of work that Capewell does in his cover defence and the 1% stuff that it's almost unrivaled at edge back row. He's genuinely built a career on it because he's not the strongest bloke. He's not the most explosive and footwork and speed. But what he does do is just go all day. All day long he'll fight for any contest. So
I'm trying to...
What about a Phil Sami?
On the bench the only thing that would worry me there is he's had one Origin series just the reason I go Dane Gagai is like he's just done so well in Origin for so long that it's just get him in there.
You don't really seem to have, unless I'm missing someone, every chance, but that a player who can cover both, like Connor Watson, plays a forward and cover the back line both effectively.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure a few years ago you had in mind it would be Jack Howarth by now.
Yeah, true. So, look, it is an interesting one. I'd love to know what Billy is thinking. I personally would put Dane Gagai there, but Billy Slater's most likely a better coach than me. I think we all. Anyone disagree?
I'm shocked that.
You,
That's not an upper argument, mate. That's an upper argument.
Yeah, I'm shocked Gagai's not in the team. Well, sorry, I'm shocked that there's not a utility in the team.
Well, there is a utility like Harry Grant and that.
Well, sorry, and that's what I was about to
Outside
say.
back.
Queensland is so blessed with this Ben Hunt situation, so they can afford to have Cobbo game 1, someone like Gagai game 2. Gagai, I would consider is an Origin legend, but I'd be just as confused if that he does come onto the team late. Like, why do that? So I just reckon he'll stick with the 17, even though I don't agree with it.
Dave Fafita.
Yeah.
He slipped out to the centres on a number of occasions for the Titans. I think he'd do a job, but seemingly, I mean, when you have a look at that extended bench, for Fafita still not to be there, he must be sending a message, Billy. He has to be.
He must be.
Yeah. Like, I'd still have Fafita there as well.
Yeah.
But
It's just, yeah. Look,
We
I
went
think.
through Kurt Mann, Phil Simon before we mentioned Fafita.
Well, I think like if you ever needed more examples of like Billy genuinely selects on like effort.
Yeah.
Like effort players. Because like even a guy like Trent Leoro, who he's been okay this year. He's had a dig, but he's also had moments where he struggled a bit. But he's definitely had a dig. Like he's had sometimes he has too much of a dig. Kurt Catewell, massive, has a dig. Helam Lukey, another guy, sometimes has too much of a dig, but he's actually been really good, flown under the radar the last few weeks. Dane Gagai has a massive dig, so that really must be like on all the priorities of Billy Slater's selections. It genuinely, number one must be, do they compete every minute of every game they play in?
Yeah, Billy Slater obviously comes from, Craig Bellamy. And I told that story last week of, like Craig Bellamy used to take guys out for coffee to see if they'd say please and thank you to make up his mind. Like it could honestly be anything that Slater's found that probably the common man like us wouldn't even
see.
consider.
So yeah, really interesting. I cannot wait to see what happens there. I stoked for Kaufusi. I thought he was really good when he came on the field. Just his defense, like he attacks with his defense. Like when watching him in defense for game 1, like it would have been at least 2 or 3 times where he would just snap a bloke straight through the middle and completely shut down momentum. I'm really stoked for Kaufusi coming off the bench. I will say though, Kaufusi and Catewell are not really similar players to Hopgood. So we are missing that kind of lock 13 that could play 80 minutes. I mean, I know Kaufusi or Catewell could probably get through 80 minutes in the middle, but they're not the same as a Hopgood. So you would have assumed that they'd try to go like for like. Maybe there isn't a guy out there at the moment. So it is a substantial. If he goes with this, Kaufusi and Catewell, the impact that's going to have on rotation is actually quite substantial in my opinion.
Yeah, big time. I don't really have any concerns about Felice Kaufusi. I'm confident he's going to come out and do a job. Like watching him play front row over he took on the Sharks pack last week.
It's just he'll do a job. It's just going to be a different job.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, yeah. And
same with Catewell.
And Slater doesn't just pick the best 17. He picks based on a game plan he wants to play to. So he would have it all sorted. I'm confident Felice comes in and plays a good game there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I actually like that pick. I think it's a good one.
I actually had him in my side initially, and Sewell was out. But Sewell was great on the weekend. No, I like the selection. It's just very different to what Hopgood offers. Offloads through the middle. But yeah, the Kurt Catewell one, it really is going to be either typical Queensland, take a guy that's been okay at Clubland, comes out and kills it, or it could be, geez, you probably overthought that one, thinking that he's going to be able to cover a bit.
God, I hope it's the secondary. That's what it feels to me. Like I think that Kurt
because he probably hasn't been playing well enough to get selected this year.
On everything we've seen from Queensland Origin selections and even Billy Slater in recent years, he'll come in, he'll do a job, and it'll be like, why do we even question it?
Yep.
But
I think so.
On paper and everything we've seen suggests to me that it's not the right decision. But we've been down this road.
And
a lot
I
of
even
times, haven't
think defensively for you guys last year, he left a lot to be desired at different points.
He's just a competitor, though. Like, so he
yeah.
might come. You watch the game, and he might miss 5 or 6 tackles, but then he'll cover tackle some incredible from across the other side of the field. So, like, I personally probably wouldn't have selected Kurt Capewell, but I have no doubt that he's an Origin player. Like, he's made to play Origin. He's that kind of competitor. And B, Billy Slater will get the best out of it. I'm be very surprised if he doesn't play well. I think he will play well, but it is, in my opinion, it's a left field selection. I did not expect it. Put it that way.
Gun to head, do you think Kurt Capewell runs out on Wednesday night?
I don't see like Billy Slater. Look, I'm just going to say what I think I would do.
Yeah.
And I'd be putting Gagai in it.
Because I think Matty makes a great point. Like, what are you gaining?
Well, you just
Like, who you?
I mean, look, a little bit. You're going, okay, they don't have a back on the bench, maybe. The only other thing I was thinking when I saw it was, is Gagai 18th man because Reece Walsh still is yet to be cleared, like fitness tests and everything? Because they'd have to fitness test him before he goes out there. So that would put Hammer to 1, Gagai into the centres,
yeah,
potentially.
yeah, that makes sense. Could be.
Maybe. I'm just throwing shit out there. See if it sticks. But yeah, look, I hope Curdy Capewell kills it because he's a real competitor. Fodawaker, I thought he was solid in game 1. Outside of that, everyone else, you know, Ruben Cotter in red hot form, Benny Hunt red hot form, Collins in like. The good thing is all these players, they are in red hot form. Like, not many players in this team right now outside of maybe Val. Talangi actually, I thought he was actually really good on the weekend, as in, not this weekend. Was it the weekend before? Okay, I have to check my notes, boys. Just 2 seconds.
I was out at the Roosters game the other night. I saw Lindsay Collins spray a ref at one point. I thought it was Slater's standards. He might have left him out.
Oh, here we go. That's called passion,
That's what
mate.
the Queenslanders are all about this
That's
time.
cool.
He had a
Bloody
good point,
passion.
though, in fairness to him.
Yeah, look, Talangi was really strong with his carries in the first half at least. But yeah, outside of that, like, it's all looking good. Nanai was better on, over the weekend. So, but yeah, I'm stoked for Helam Lukey. I think he's actually been flying on the radar the last few weeks since he come back from injury. I think he's been quite good.
Yeah, and I think people forget, like, we've harped on about him for years. Like, I think if he wouldn't have got injured a couple of years ago, like, we could be seeing Nanai coming in for an opportunity.
Mate, I'll never forget. I don't know if they debuted the same game, but it was around the same time. And there was hype around Nanai, and then Lukey came out and killed it. And it was almost like, oh, wow, like this guy is the next thing. And then Nanai just come out of nowhere and Lukey got injured in that. But I agree with you. There's a
I'll
period
always
there.
stand by, before they both played first grade, Lukey was the one,
Yeah, wow.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think Luke could be a staple of this Origin outfit for many years to come. He just needs to string some games together without getting injured, the poor bugger, because he just cannot do it. Just never major injuries, just a lot of soft ones and misses games here and there. But I mean, if they do win this game, it'll be an huge opportunity for him to give him potentially a run game
He's
3 as well.
huge body, massive tank on him. Like, his gas tank, he goes all day.
So mobile.
Yeah.
He's great. Runs a terrific line.
I cannot wait. I hope he does get his debut in this series, or at the very least next series. I could probably see him squeezing onto the bench next year with Felice Kafusi and Kurt Capewell getting a little bit older. Maybe he lands on the bench. But yeah, Trent Lioro, I was a bit surprised with Lioro's selection. As I said, I don't think he's been poor by any stretch. But I think it is maybe similar to the Capewell selection, where it's just like Billy Slater watches these guys minute after minute, and if they are pure competitors like Lioro is, he goes, you know what? I can work with that. What I can't work is with guys that aren't competitors for 80 minutes. So yeah, stoked for all the boys. Hopefully they kill it. Hopefully they kill it. Anything else on the Queensland team, boys?
No, pretty well covered.
All good.
All good?
Good, yeah.
All good. Alrighty, that is the Origin chat. Anything else with Origin chat you want to speak about, boys? Chances of... we'll speak actually before the game next week. All right, don't forget, guys, Wednesday after the game, we will be going live to doing a full review. Mitchell Pearce will be joining us. Also, make sure to grab yourself a maroon jumper, or we've got a blue shirt and a maroon shirt as well on bloke.shop. Anything else? No, it's all good. Now, guys that are watching this now, we're releasing the full review in a different snippet. So that'll come up, not a different snippet, in a different video. So we're going to release this by itself and then the full review. But the full review is not going to obviously be as big as it usually is each week, because obviously we've been going for about an hour or so far.
CBA Bowl Thursday night, Leichhardt Oval, 2-for-1 tickets in the description. Come and join us.
In the link. The link is in the show notes for the CBA Bowl. Also, brand new website for Timmy. And give me something. Just give him a follow. Give me something. Give me a follow.
Get on board. 3 correct tips on the weekend. It was a lot of green ticks coming out of the Give Me Something feed channel. So give us a follow on there as well.
Love that. Love that. Alrighty. We'll see you in a video in about 30 minutes.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.